here's what we're going to do. These gentlemen are going to sit down, and then I'm going to give each of them about 2 or 3 minutes to give us the quick, kind of elevator pitch on, who are you, what are you doing, and then we're going to pepper them with questions about, life in the Yukon and what have you been doing for the last 2 years, and what have you drilled for me lately. So let's see. I'll tell you what. Let's start with Gordon Neal of Whitehorse Gold. Gordon, good afternoon. It is great to see you. Give the audience a couple minutes of what you guys are doing.
Thanks, Byron. I have a question. First of all, why do we call it a round table when it's rectangular? It's just a thing that I have. I need an answer to that. You guys are going to ask us questions, but this is not a round table. Okay, just so we're clear. So, and I've got that out of the way. Thank you. Sorry, I got it out of the way. Whitehorse Gold is in the Yukon, obviously. That's why we're in this room. What I really like about Whitehorse is its past producing profile. It produced 70,000 ounces of gold at about 11 grams gold. It's high grade in the late 80s. It has infrastructure of a 3,000 ton a day mill, a 50-person camp, and it's only 40 minutes from Whitehorse. Grade is king. And I learned that from my days at Mag Silver and at New Pacific. If you've got grade, you've got an ability to be able to make mistakes, which in this business we do. But you need grade to make things economic. And Whitehorse Gold and the Skookum project can do that. And that's my 2 minutes.
Very good. Thank you. Let's talk with Scott Sheldon now of Flow Metal. Scott, give us a 2-minute elevator pitch, and then we'll get back with you here.
Sounds good. So we have a project out in 60 Mile. That's a placer district. It's basically just west of Dawson City. It's about an hour and a half drive. We're closer to the... Is that a little better?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're actually almost at the Yukon border. Part of our property bumps up right against the edge of the Yukon. And the 60 Mile Placer District is it's actually where they were first discovering gold even before the Klondike. So it's got a pretty rich history of gold exploration. We've got 4 placer creeks that run across the property and 3 active placer mines. So there's definitely a lot of gold. There's a lot of smoke there, and we're trying to find the source. So it's fun, and it's all road access, pretty close to the top of the World Highway, and so it's pretty cheap exploration. And we're pretty excited to be there.
And thirdly, but last not least, is Matt Turner of Rockhaven. Full disclosure, I've known Matt for many years and been there, done that. But give us the pitch, Matt.
Thanks, Byron. So Rockhaven Resources, we've got the Claza project. So that's located, again, road accessible like the other 2 projects. We're about a 3.5-hour drive from Whitehorse. The project, we've been advancing that now since 2010, 120,000 meters of drilling, 560 holes. So a lot of work's been done by our group out there. We went into, it's called the Mountain Anson Gold Belt. We went into the Mountain Anson Gold Belt again back in 2010, but we were looking on another part of the belt where the old mine was. And it's come a long way. We're sitting at about 1.6 million ounces gold equivalent at 5 grams. So kind of like what Gordon said, grade really is king. And we actually, now it's a little bit of old news, but we did a PEA back in 2020 at $14.50 gold and $17 silver. And it's a very positive outcome, almost 400 million post-tax NPV and 37% IRR. So next steps for us is going to be going into advanced drilling in 2022 here, which will lead into our PFS study.
Okay, one of the things that you'd notice about all 3 companies is they're all working in historical mining districts. We're not talking about greenfield moose pasture. These are phenomenal names in the Yukon. 60 Mile, Skookum, Claza. I mean, people have been placering and/or picking these places over for decades, and in some respects over 100 years. So there we go. Matt, let me get back with you. You have a resource. What kind of numbers do you brag about officially?
So there's a split to it. So about 60% is in the indicated category. So again, if we look at gold equivalents, because it's the deposit hosts gold, silver, lead, and zinc, with about 70% of the value is in the gold, 75%. So on a gold equivalence, we're just shy of 1 million ounces gold equivalent at 6.3 grams gold equivalent. And then there's also the other 40% of the global resource is in the inferred category. And that's another, I think, 725,000 ounces at about 4.3 grams. So again, high grade. And that's, I think, really, really important for where we are in the world. But just, again, as a project and as we move this forward into becoming a mine and an economic project, I think grade's just so key.
Mm-hmm. Scott, it's kind of the same question with you. Tell us about how you come up with some sort of a number for, how can people wrap their head around what you're doing there?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. We're pre-resource. We're even pre-target resource. We've just been looking at different models recently, trying to come up with some numbers. But we're a pretty small company. We're micro cap, and so we're kind of getting an idea of these numbers. We've been going through a bunch of the historical work. There's basically 3 different groups that have been working the property over the past 30 or 40 years. The biggest program was back in 2010, 2011. That's when the gold group put a lot of work into the property. They did up to 15 diamond drill holes, about 100 RAB holes, and about 20 trenches. And so we've been going over all that work, trying to figure out what they've put together. So we're not even at that point yet, but we know there's a really neat 9 kilometer long thrust fault that we've been following. We've got 3 kilometers of strike on this thrust fault, and so the idea is to go in there and do a lot more trenching and possibly do some RC work. But yeah, no, we're definitely before resource. But
yeah. Well, your basic nuts and bolts field exploration, looking for the things that you need to find to tell you where to go next. But I mean, that's what it's all about. Gordon, can you give us a view of like how do people wrap their brains around your what it is you're doing?
Yeah, we've got 3 deposits: the Goodell deposit, the Skookum Creek deposit, and the Mount Skookum deposit. The resource right now is about 350,000 ounces in the indicated category, about 280 in the inferred. It's on a gold equivalent basis, so the average is about 8 grams gold equivalent. About 70%, 75% of that's in the gold category. The rest is silver. It's growing because last year my predecessor, who's in the audience and a great guy, Kevin Weston, drilled 17,000 meters primarily at Skookum Creek and at Mount Skookum, and those numbers are going to add significantly to the resource. And I can't say it because it'd be a very forward-looking statement, but I'm going to say it because it'll take it past the 1 million ounce level. But that's a very forward-looking statement, and the table is rectangular. It's not round.
Okay. Whoops. Thanks. Thank you. Okay. It is May of 2022, and it's little over 2 years since we've had an open-air conference like this. Just in general, Gordon, we'll start with you. What have you done in the last 2 years, and then in terms of it's May, and what are you going to do over the summer here? What do we have to look forward to?
Well, I got to say, Byron, it's just great to be back in this kind of an atmosphere, and not only for potential investors, which is really why a lot of us are here, but when you've had that kind of a break, it's great to sort of reconnect with your compatriots in this business and just have conversations about what we have been doing over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, I just am new to the company in terms of taking the reins from Kevin in December. But over the last couple of years, we're a new company in the last couple of years. We were spun out of New Pacific Metals, of which I was the president. So the first program that we've had is the one that Kevin ran last year, which is the 17,000 meters. And what we have to look forward to this year is we're still taking that data and we're still processing it right now. We're a little late starting in what we're looking at for our program for the summer. But we'll get there, and once we get what our numbers are going to be, we'll let people know.
Okay. Scott, tell us a little bit about sort of how did Flow Metals get to where you are now? Where'd you come from, and what are we going to do this summer?
Well, we're a spin out as well. We've been working in the Yukon as a group since 2011. We had a project, or we started with a project in the Wells District. We found we had a discovery out there, which is just south of the White Gold District. Then that company transitioned into battery metals, and they spun out what is today Flow. So yeah, we kind of have the same group that has the battery metals and the gold company, but battery metals has definitely been an easier sell than gold recently. But we're pretty excited about gold as well. It's I don't really have to. I won't talk about the inflation and all that, but yeah. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but yeah, no, we're pretty confident that that things are going to turn around. Is that convincing?
Matt, give everybody a quick rundown of what you do over the last 2 years and what's the plan for the next 6 months or so.
Yeah, the last 2 exploration seasons, we've done just over 20,000 meters of drilling. Discovered a totally new vein field about 3 kilometers away from our deposit, which is shaping up quite well. Also, we did a PEA, like I mentioned. That was in 2020. And then what's coming up here? So we're actually kind of right in the middle of arranging a financing, which again is great timing with what's going on with the market. But it's coming together, and that will hopefully lead into a pretty decent sized drill program, probably between 12 to say 18,000 meters of drilling. And the big focus will be to convert the remaining inferred ounces into the indicated category, and then take the whole thing into a new resource estimate, and then to PFS. So that's our what we're striving for the next I'd say the next 12 months.
Okay, well, and then we'll go back across here. Since you mentioned the D word, drilling, we've had a tough time drilling in the last 2 years, just for pure logistical reasons, yes. Personnel reasons, COVID reasons, all that stuff. How's it look?
Looks good. Like, again, we're still going to be, pretty strict, I think, on our protocols, just because when you're in a camp, it is just a super tight-knit group of people touching all the same stuff. So you still got to be really careful. But yeah, no, I think it's going to be refreshing, I think, for everyone. It's all, kind of like at the conference here, right? Seeing everyone, and just on the conference, our industry really is like a tight-knit family, right? So I made the line about there should be a table in the middle of the aisle there with a turkey dinner, right? Because it truly feels like seeing family again for a while. So,
yeah. I think in terms of health and safety, I think a lot of people picked up a lot of good habits in the last couple of years. Just the basic, like, wash your hands kind of stuff. I mean, those things are. And then even before COVID, I mean, a mining camp, you can always be cleaner. Let's just say, I mean, it's not a knock. I'm just sort of describing reality here. Scott, why don't you tell us about what tools do you got? What tools do you need, for your trenching? For your what are you looking at to get things done out in the field?
Yeah, so we're pretty lucky being close to Dawson. Dawson has a pretty big mining community. There's a lot of resources there that we can use. And on top of that, the property that we're on, as I mentioned, there's 3 placer operations. So that means we have camps on site. We have a bunch of heavy machinery, and obviously road access. So we've got pretty much a lot of what we need out there, and it makes pretty economic exploration.
And you're able to get the things you need, the fuel, the parts, the consumables, expendables, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it was a challenge last year with COVID, and obviously the year before. It was manageable, but yeah, we weren't able to use the placer camps, so we had separation there. So we had to basically bring in our own tents and do all that. But it was still manageable, and we were lucky to actually be able to work. But we're definitely looking forward to getting back to normal here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Gordon, you mentioned that your company did some drilling previously. Are you still did I hear you right? You're waiting on certain results. Are you still backlogged in the channels or something? Or
No,
what?
no, we're not backlogged. We've got them all. It's just a matter of us interpreting what they mean and going on to the next phase of what the drill program might look like. The last year, again, I mentioned Kevin's name because he was the one that actually did the program, but we got started a little late because of financing. And it really did put a little bit of pressure on what we could get and the resources that were available at that time. Although I will say, once you get them and you get them rolling, you've got the turnover and the responsiveness of the service companies are quite good up in the Yukon. So we're looking forward to being able to do that again with the same groups we worked with this year.
Okay. Well, since we're talking a little bit of, so I heard that money word come out there. Why don't you tell us, how is the company set up in terms of money in the bank, and tell us a little about the share structure and how do you trade, things like that.
Yeah, we've got $4 million in the bank. We have a 52 million shares out. We trade fairly thinly, but that's probably because our largest shareholder is Silver Corp Metals that owns 30% of the company. We trade probably 50,000 shares a day, something like that. And as I said, Silver Corp owns 30% of the company. And this was spun out from New Pacific, so there's a lot of New Pacific shareholders that are in the mix in the cap table.
And are these TSX Venture shares, or do you have OTC in the US?
It's TSX listed, but we just got listed on the OTC QX as well.
Okay. Scott, tell us about how do you guys sit with respect to share structure, bank account thing, that kind of thing.
So it's a pretty tight company. We have about 35 million shares outstanding. We're on the CSE under the symbol FWM. Basically, when we listed about a year and a half ago, we did a financing with a lead order through Palisades. So we got close to $1 million there. We've been able to stretch that basically up to now. We've done 2 RAB drill programs up in 60 Mile, and we've done two projects at our New Brenda project in BC. But yeah, no, we're down under 100 grand right now, so we're not flush for working. Honestly, if we did a program up in the Yukon, we got a YMIP grant, so that gives us about $40,000 if we spend up to 100. So as long as we can basically put 100 together, then we can do a decent program up there. But yeah, no, we've definitely have some work to do in that category. But
okay, Matt, same question. Tell us about what's
we've
going on with
got
Rockhaven.
Rockhaven has 223 million shares outstanding. It sounds like a lot, but we've been running the company now for 17 years and no rollback. So it's we've done a lot of work with issuing those shares, raising money through issuing those shares. We've got about $1.3 million in the bank, and the program that we're hoping to complete, added with the PFS and the updated resource, is going to be about $5 million. So that gives you an idea of what we'll need to raise over the course of the next month or so. So what else was there? Byron, any other question? Was there anything else I missed? Symbol, RK on the venture. There we go.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Scott.
You never know who's in the audience, sort of how geologically invested you are, how much training people have, background. We start talking about mineralogy and structures and this and that. But if you 3 gentlemen in the next couple of minutes, I'll start with Matt again and work my way back. If you could just give a quick, sort of a sound picture of what is the geology that you're looking at? Why is that gold there? And what is it that, why did the old timers find it, and why are you still looking? Give us a clue on what's the magic there, okay?
Yeah. We're I guess really fortunate in that the old timers were picking around where we're exploring now, but they never looked outside of where they first started poking around. And so we basically followed the mineralized zones, because they're effectively fault zones that stretch for over 2 kilometers, and they're mineralized the whole way. The old timers were looking closer to the porphyry, and so more proximal to the heat source. we've gotten out to a more distal environment where the grades have gone up for all the metals, and that's basically where 98% of our resource is, outside of where the old timers were looking. And it was just basically the fact that we followed our nose. We kept stepping along strike and kept hitting. And again, that, we went for about 2 kilometers away from where they were looking. So
that brings up a really good point that applies to the Yukon and pretty much everywhere else in the world. Every place in the world has been looked at. Okay, somebody somewhere sometime walked across that land, with the Mark I eyeball looking down, looking for shiny stuff, or they were sticking a rod or something in the dirt. It's been prospected. But in terms of exploration, modern techniques, geophysics, geochemistry, remote sensing, doing the analysis, soil samples, biological samples, it has not been done. And that's why people are still looking for new things in old places. Scott, why don't you tell us a little bit about the geology and the kind of the provenance of your deposits? What are we looking for there?
Sure. So we've seen a lot of the nuggets that have been coming out of the ground up there. The placer miners are pulling these big, chunky, coarse grain nuggets. So generally that means the gold hasn't traveled very far. But it's pretty romantic when you go up there and you get the story from the placer miners. These guys are they're very passionate about what they do, but and they're actually invested in our company as well. So they have a vested interest in seeing us succeed. So in terms of, I won't go too much into the geology. I'm not a geologist by trade. I'm a historian actually. So I guess both are vested in the past events. But yeah, it's a pretty neat place, and we're looking forward to finding some more gold up there for sure.
Okay. Gordon, give us a quick sort of site picture of what's going on up there geologically.
Yeah, I'm not a geologist as well, but I love geology. So it's fairly complex in our area. We've got 3 deposits. As I said, the Goodell, the Skookum Creek, and the Mount Skookum. Goodell is a series of shear zones, and it's all 3 of them are being fed by epithermal vein mineralization events. And so there's a series of stacked veins in all 3 of them, particularly in the Mount Skookum area, and in the Skookum Creek area. It's epithermal, but there's a concentration of gold, and it has the higher concentration of silver, and that what gives us the equivalent basis. You get quite a bit of. One of our results that we put out recently had 1,800 grams silver in it. So in that area, you'll get more silver, and of course, I have no explanation as to why I'm going to get gold at Goodell, gold and silver at Mount Skookum Creek, and then just purely gold at Mount Skookum. But that's the geology that drives it. Again, there's faults. There's a fault system that anastomoses near at the Skookum Creek area, which is a source of mineralization. Goodell is a shear zone, and Mount Skookum is basically just a pure epithermal vein system.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean that's a good basic kind of overview of things. I mean, the big picture of the Yukon is, in many respects, geologically the same thing as Alaska. Just over the last, 40, 50 million years, things have just been transported up on the Pacific plate and subducted and attached in what are called these terrains. But here's where you get your faulting and your folding. And then if the gold is there, it didn't fall from the sky. It came up from down below where there was heat and there was mass, and it moved upwards. So so what we have here is a combination of junior exploration that requires money, of course, but kind of a nose for looking, and and really the sort of a passion to get out there and find things. And so along those lines, I'll start back over here with Matt. Just tell us about the team that you have. Who, geologists, engineers, permit people. Who do you have working with you? And what are they doing for you?
Yeah, so our team has been more or less intact since day one. We've had a few people kind of come in and out. One of our head geo for about the first 6 years, he actually opened a brewery in Kamloops and actually has done really well since
a geologist who opens a brewery.
There you go, yeah.
Like somebody died and went to heaven there.
But a lot of our team is basically headed up by the Archer Cathra Group, which has been really focused in the Yukon for over 50 years now. And so they've done a phenomenal job, helping shepherd this project forward to really to a place where I think it's actually the most advanced project that AC has ever worked for, crazy enough, getting into the PFS realm, right? So yeah, it's been I think huge, both working with AC, but also working with the local community and the local First Nations, maximizing as many local hires as possible, and really doing things the right way, right? Which is the only way it should be done.
Yeah, that is true, the only way. Scott, you said you're a historian. How does a historian get into the gold business? And tell us about your team.
Sure. So I actually went into high tech after I got my degree. So I was basically working with web design and doing database programming and so forth, and then made the transition into geology. But working with programmers was very similar to working with geologists. So it seems they kind of cut from the same cloth. But our team, actually, Harley Slade is in the background over there. He's a big part of our team. He's been on every project that we've run up at 60 Mile, and he wrote his own AI program in Python. So he's a good go-getter. We're a pretty small group. We've got Adrian Smith on our team as well, and he's got some great resources here in the city. So we're kind of a feisty group, small group, but we like to be resourceful. And yeah, when we do work, like whether it's in British Columbia or the Yukon, we generally work with a group that's local to the community. That way, we're definitely giving back to the area that we're working. In the last case up in 60 Mile, we were working with Ground Truth, who's a local outfit out of Dawson. And yeah, as I mentioned earlier, there's so many good resources in Dawson and in the Yukon in general. So we're definitely happy working there.
Okay, thanks. And Gordon, I want to give you a brag about your team. Who you're working with, and how good are they?
We're unbelievable. No, I got to say it. I mean, I'm not joking. This team, the team that I have surrounding me is unbelievable. Because you've got guys like Ri Feng, who's the largest shareholder, but I'm in his office. This guy's discovered like 5 different mines. He runs a producing mine, one of the best silver companies in the world. I have Alex Zhang. I have access to his geologist. He just made a huge discovery at Karangas. So if I have any technical questions about anastomosis or shear zones, I was in his office this morning. He's got an answer for me. I've got... I have access to a team in Beijing because of Silvercorp, which again is our largest shareholder. But 2 things: if we do a financing, Silvercorp wants to stay whole. So if I do a $10 million financing, Silvercorp will take $3 million, $3 million immediately. Mm-hmm. I've got Young Jae Kim. I've got Victor Fang, I've got Flora Lowe, and I've got Monica right here in this room supporting me. I've got an amazing team. And I also got Rishi back there. And Rishi's wife worked with me at New Pacific, and we work still as a team. We're siloed separately in the office. So the press release that came out this morning for New Pacific, I didn't know what it was, but it was awesome. But his wife was actually the one to put that out. We work together in IR, finance, geology. It's an incredible support team to have.
Okay, and there you go, and we're out of time. If you have questions, these guys are right here. Come ask them. Well, actually, they're going to walk out because there's somebody else coming up. Each of these companies has a website that's worth looking at, and that is all I can say about that. So thank all of you for being here and for your attention. Thank you, sirs, for your very terse and informative and focused answers. I appreciate it as the moderator. Obviously, I am not Gwen Preston, as who was supposed to be here. Gwen is a dear friend, but she had another issue and she couldn't make it, and so they asked me if I would help. I will be here tomorrow morning as well, tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 for another conference if you really enjoy my style of moderating, but that's just an advertisement for me. Okay, thanks everybody. Adios, and we will see you all again.
Thanks, Byron.